Hello and welcome everyone here to the SMITE Challenger Circuit for North America. And Mifflin, I'm excited for this one. My name is Gormizer, and we've got a very good game that we're going to start off with. Of course, I think the rest of them that we'll see later today after the SPL are going to be just as phenomenal. But anytime I get to see Baskin and the boys, my heart does a little leap in my chest. It's always just excited to watch them. But I think maybe even more so when they're up against a team that I think is going to actually give them some trouble, as opposed to what we are used to seeing from Baskin and the boys, where they do the belt slap method of not losing ever.
Hey, brave of you to assume that any team can give Baskin and the boys a run for their money, but I think you're right to assume that it's going to be locked and goated. These guys have a ton of veteran talent on their team. I mean, you got El Leon, previously known as El Chapo, who's been playing at the top level for as long as the top level has existed. You've got Ionic, fresh off the SPL, Pagon and Stewart, these up-and-coming talents. These are all players that I think really can individually play up against Baskin and the boys. It's just how well are they able to play together?
Well, and twice as nice you get to see them today, not just now, but a little bit later if you tune in after the SBL. So a lot of chances to get your Baskin and the boys fill. I know I'll be tuning in when they come through, and that's kind of where it comes through. You know, you're looking at Locked and Goated, like you said, a lot of history players that come through, or at this point, even some that have showcased their talents maybe more recently. Stewart being able to have, even though it was only one set in 1 week, some SBL experience is probably going to be very solid for him. Ionic, Pagon all joining them. If you're gonna go up against, Baskin, Uzi, Masked, Meerkat, and Gino, you gotta have at least something going on for you. And I think Locked and Goated have that essence that's gonna come through. It's just, again, like you said, how well they can put it all together in order to take down a team that has been as monstrous as Baskin and the boys.
Completely agree, man. And you know what? It's a tall task to ask of anybody. Baskin and the boys are obviously going to be pretty strong. Baskin largely considered one of the best players in the world, and that's from the SEC. People hail this man as the best player in the world from the lower seeded just tournament bracket besides the SPL. It's nuts to me just how much respect this guy has garnered, and it's through his immaculate play.
Well, now we get to see some of that immaculate play as we just jump right into it. I mean, there's no reason to put it off any longer. Picks and bans here for game number 1. And this is where I think there's a lot that's going to be determined, but at the same time, almost nothing can get determined. I mean, we've seen a lot of, Amaterasu, Cthulhu have been taking over the solo lane, but right now mid, where I think, you just highlighted Baskin, but I think that's where a lot of things can shift up, and the God pool can be so deep right now that almost anything is viable, so I'm interested to see what these teams go out of their way to ban.
Yeah, I'm glad that you highlight how deep the Mage God pool is, because they're spoiled. All mid laners are spoiled players. They've got, 40 characters to pick from or something crazy like that, and still somehow aggro finds a way to complain about it. Baskin is a player that is going to play whatever he wants to on the given day. I mean, he showed up to that SPL LAN and played Thoth, pulled it out of nowhere. No one else is playing that character, and he performed admirably on it. I mean, it doesn't really matter what Locked and Go to want to ban out if it's targeted towards Baskin, because he's going to play whatever he wants and look really good.
Yeah, it's kind of insane when you can just jump into a bunch of SBL players and be like, yeah, I'm going to play this. And they're like, dude, that's not no, you can't, that's not meta. And he does it anyway, and it looks good. Although I'm assuming that at that point Ghost would be very much, supportive of Baskin. Dude, whatever you want to play, at this point I think everybody is. Whatever you want to play, just play it, because everyone's going to enjoy watching it as it comes through. But it's going to be Olorun, Freya, Yamoja banned out by Baskin and the boys, all pretty typical. And then it's Cthulhu, Nemesis, Persephone. Again, all pretty typical when it comes down here. I mean, my mind... Soul is available, even though she hasn't been big. I was going to talk about Amaterasu. I was going to talk about a lot of gods. But it's Ganesh that gets first picked here by Baskin and the boys. That seems like an interesting first pick, more than anything I can say.
It is interesting because of all the gods you were just about to highlight as being completely meta, but that's not to say that Ganesha isn't incredibly strong. This is a god that I think is a little bit slept on right now. Dharmic Pillars is still a fantastic tool. He's got just amazing lockdown through his dash. He actually gives his team 50 protections both ways once he's got his 2 fully maxed out. I mean, this god is very versatile, and he brings a lot to the team fight as well as to the objective. Dharmic Pillars is sleeper hit on just burning through every single Gold Fury or Fire Giant or Pyro.
Dharmic Pillars I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think it might be my favorite ability in the game. I just think it does so much. It's so good, guys. Like, it is hard to underestimate how much it does. That Prot Shred really pays off. But Locked and Goated answer back with a Heimdall Xing Chen, so some good lockdown to maybe try and control that duo lane. But it's the Ao Kuang, someone that has been kind of teetering on the edge. We got to see, I believe, Johnny play it in Europe, and then we got to see Scream, I believe, pick it up there in North America for the SPL. But now, being picked up here by Baskin and the boys alongside of Soul. Seems like bringing Hecate is going to be pretty much the way to go.
Yeah, both of these guys are going to be using it incredibly well. They're going to have to lock some physical down somewhere in the draft. I'm assuming this Soul is most likely going to go into the long lane, so we might see something like an On Her or a Cupid come out through mid. Cupid likely to get banned if Locked and Goated spot that out, just because that god has seen so much relevance recently. I like the draft so far. BNB have something that's going to immediately destroy Gold Fury. So the second these gods take over to level 5, Dharmic Pillars plus Dragon Call plus just Soul auto attacks should be able to shred a Gold Fury in sub 15 seconds. So Locked and Goated have to play very aware on the map.
And I think a good call from Locked and Goated as well to go ahead and ban out the Neath that's coming through. She's been more or less on the rise. There's a few hunters that honestly do work really well mid, but there are very few that work really well mid and are almost entirely based in their abilities. Their auto attacks are very similar to mages, and I think Neath and Cupid, in some ways, kind of fall almost directly into that category. And I think you called it appropriately early on, but there's going to be the Cupid ban as well. Raijin taken away from Baskin or by Baskin and the boys here as they look for their last one. It's going to be the Merlin. So top two mids that we got to see throughout Phase 1. And again, at this point, it doesn't really feel like it's going to hurt the mid lane that much over there for Locked and Goated.
It really shouldn't, because there's just, again, so many mages that you could choose from, and even then, Raijin and Merlin are kind of the fallback picks, because gods like Habois have been seeing a lot more relevance recently. He's very prevalent in the SPL. We saw it yesterday. He's got a pretty decent laning phase with recent itemization changes. He hits his power spikes just a little bit earlier on, likely due to that Typhon's Fang, and then you can just immediately scale incredibly well into the late game and be that one guy who's going to blow up at least one person on the enemy team. Ao Kuang's going to have a very hard time dealing with this Hebo.
Yeah, you jump in on Hebo, he knocks you up, water hands you, and if you're still alive, although at Ao Kuang's health bar, I don't know that you're going to be able to withstand all that. Then worst case scenario, maybe he has to wait, 2 seconds to water hands you again, or he can just ult on the spot. It's going to be scary for them, but Baskin and the boys go an interesting route. The Nike, I want to take a look at just because of the fact that she realistically hasn't been seeing as much play. A lot of people look at Sunder right now to be able to deal with her shield when she ults being a huge item, so I'm wondering if that's going to come through. But also Medusa, who I think after all of the changes for mid-season was the #1 most talked about hunter I heard, and then never saw anything about her outside of my casual games.
Yeah, Medusa's in this weird spot where the buffs that she got are incredibly strong, but mainly it's the change to Lacerate, her dash that roots you for a lot longer at rank 1. But how often are you really using your dash aggressively in competitive play? It really puts you out of position, you lose your escapability, so it makes Medusa this kind of teetering edge god where if you're ahead, good for you, you're going to stay ahead and likely pull even further ahead, but if you're behind, you can't really utilize those changes too well. And with this Nike likely going to the Soul lane, we saw that Baskin and the boys tried to bring this out 2 weeks ago, and it just got sundered every single time. It was really hard to get the value out of that ultimate. I mean, she was dying incredibly quickly. Maybe we see Ozzy. I know he loves this pick. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve.
I mean, honestly, there's also a way to look at it. If they're going Sunder for Nike, they're not going blank for everybody else. So maybe getting rid of a relic, or they're so heavy-handed, I guess, on the other relics. Maybe that Sunder goes a little bit under the radar there for Locked and Goated, but that's something only time will tell as we jump into game #1 here. I'm excited about so many things Baskin and the boys are doing, but I think the one that stands out the most might be Baskin on Medusa, just to see how this is going to work, especially against a Hebo early on. This Habois, again, the damage numbers that you can see from him, especially with control from a Circuit, it could be pretty devastating if you get caught out in mid.
And it's going to be hard for Baskin to, again, use that Lacerate aggressively. You don't often want to stand right next to Hebo, but if anyone's going to pull ahead and maintain a lead, it's going to be the titular Baskin. So I think we could trust him a little bit here to at least, make it through the laning phase safely. Looks like he's going to go for that Transcendent start, but he is going for the Hunter's Blessing instead of just the Rush, which tells me that he's going to be looking to play aggressive early on.
We'll have to see how aggressive you can get on a Medusa early on. It's been so long since I've gotten to see her. I know her peak you know, typically is in that mid-game area, but again, with a lot of the new items, it does level her out kind of entirely. You know, she doesn't necessarily have a quote-unquote fall-off point, and that's going to maybe make a big difference there in mid. The other one to keep your eyes on is going to be the Xing Chen. Already, Ionic looking to get aggressive over here, not so much in the setup sense, but in the we don't want Meerkat to feel safe sense. Unfortunately, it takes him about half his health bar just to try and get some of that pressure.
That's unfortunate for Ionic. He used the blink to try and clear out that ghost minion before his Hunter Stewart could get in range for the experience, but it just doesn't work out. Uses the blink, doesn't really get that much damage on Meerkat, doesn't get the XP for himself, so they're both going to tick over to 2 at the exact same time. Had it worked out, Ionic would have likely been able to get a lot more pressure, might have even leveled his 2 to make sure that they can get a ton of damage off on Meerkat, force him to use his potions early on, but it just doesn't really fan out that way.
Well, it's good control either way so far in their lane. Although, it's hard to say how long this will last, right? I think Heimdall is going to be solid over here, the same thing for the Xing Chen. But Ganesh and Sol aren't necessarily known for, you know, their level 1 or even their level 2 here as they tick over to that. So I'm excited to see this lane as it evolves. Unfortunately for Ionic, again, the pressure he is taking is maybe kind of bouncing back at him. His Relentless one is just a couple of hits away, but Uzi, no cooldowns readily available for him to try and turn that one around. It's going to end up leaving that kill for naught, but it shows how kind of aggressive, I want to say, everybody's being across the board.
I mean, we're in North America, Gore. This is how we like to play. Mud fights, just every bar brawl you can get into. That's exactly the pace that I love to see. And it really is going to come down to the 3v3 in mid. I think as far as this duo lane goes, we're not going to see too much until around that level 5 point where both supports start to rotate out. And Meerkat, likely not going to be willing to fight Stewart ever. Sol into Huyi, not really going to favor this Sol just about at any point until he hits that 4th or 3rd item slot. That's when these magical ADCs really start to pop off.
Well, Ionic, no mana right now. Gonna get locked down for a little bit, but again, the cooldown's just not paying off in favor of Baskin and the boys. The mana not helping them that much either. They have nothing to work with. So Ionic looks to be able to get away, I guess, kind of with murder here. He goes off very far, very aggressive. And even though you see things like Stewart using his beads just, well, about a minute ago now, it doesn't make a difference for Baskin and the boys. They aren't able to really make a play off of it.
Yeah, Sol's just not the god that you want to really play aggressive in the early game. I like to equate her to the second slowest scaling magical hunter possible. Number 1 being Kronos. It's so slow to start up, but Sol is really reliant on those items. And most of the time, when we see Sol played, it's going to be Barracuda from the Renegades, and he likes to play this pseudo auto-attack build. Usually goes Ring of Hecate and a Typhon's Fang, and then potentially even an Obsidian Shard or something along those lines. Because Sol is one of these gods that really you want to use her abilities for her damage because they're pretty strong. She's not as reliant on her auto attacks as the majority of other auto attacking magical hunters.
Man, but if you leave her alone for just a few minutes in your lane, she will just decimate towers. So it is something to keep your eye on. And that's something I think Baskin and the boys have. Maybe not just tower pressure, but realistically late game pressure. I mean, Medusa, we kind of highlighted maybe being a little earlier on. Nike may be able to do something. Unfortunately for Meerkat, doesn't look like he's going to be able to do much. Disapparate's so good at keeping him alive just a little bit longer. Goes through all the ticks. That's not going to be enough from Leon, although they will find it. It's a trade out for them in the jungle or under the tower with the jungler there. So Leon, maybe just a little too greedy, but does get the kill either way.
I mean, that's tough, man. That should have gone a lot better. There's a slight misplay from the Surcat. Had he decided to use his 1 before the Disapparate fully channeled, he likely would have got that kill without having to trade his life, but instead he plays it a little too patient.
Well, Ozzy, forced to leap over the wall, seems to be able to get out okay here, masked in the neighborhood of the solo lane. But it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get anything over there either. Ionic now maybe taking some aggressive positioning against Baskin. Normally, I wouldn't say this works out well, but you've got Leon behind you. The ult going to come through, forces the beads. And even though they don't have any follow-up, it's those little relic moments that make the big difference.
Stewart's going to be forced to use his ult defensively as Meerkat gets a little bit aggressive. It's interesting to point out that Baskin decides to, instead of using his ult to immune the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, uses his beads. I mean, again, it's signature of that Baskin playstyle. He wants to play aggressive, so he's going to keep the thing that does damage. Beads can't hurt the enemy, must not be valuable to Baskin. Instead, saves his ultimate so he can potentially look for the solo kill. I mean, I like the play. We'll see how it pans out, though.
Well, the pressure seems to be up pretty much everywhere on the map, and that's actually something I was trying to talk about before all of it broke through, and that's that Baskin and the boys Meerkat gonna get better with time. Mask gonna get better with time. Gino and Uzi gonna have a much bigger impact in the late game, I think, than they can on the early game. So it feels like Locked and Goated maybe don't have a timer playing against them. They also have some very strong late game gods. But, you know, this is the time to press that advantage, right?
Especially in the jungle, I think you're onto something. Ao Kuang is someone who really can get abused in the early game, especially when you're matched up against someone like Surcat, who's going to make it incredibly hard for this Ao Kuang to even use stealth. So I would like to see Locked and Goated shift their focus more towards invading red buff, or even back camps, blue camp, anywhere they can get any sort of pressure in the enemy jungle. But you already pointed out, Locked and Goated aren't really too worried about getting into the late game. Heimdall, Amaterasu, and Hebo are going to get so much better as time goes on. I think a lot of this onus is going to fall onto Relentless One to win out these team fights for his team once the objective phase starts, once these dance around the gold periods begin, because there's a lot of lack of mobility from B&B. It's going to be very easy for him to find his ultimate onto Meerkat, onto Baskin. Those dashes aren't the best for avoiding dazzling offensive.
Well, Leon finally back, so I was going to highlight, he's just been sitting over there waiting for Meerkat to make the mistake of getting a little too far forward, although beads were up for the soul, so maybe nothing big could have come out of it, and I think that's kind of the idea, is back off, get your farm, do whatever you want here if you're Locked and Goated. Surprisingly, they've, you know, I mean, it felt like everything popped off all at once, only 2 kills came out of it for the entire game, and then everything just slowed right back down. They hit the brakes, and it felt kind of like just getting a feel for how aggressive your opponent wants to be. But now it's going to be Uzi looking to try and contest his own blue buff here with Ionic coming over. That shield having a good knockback on it. The lockdown will be solid. But against the follow-up, that's going to be missing. Mask going to get caught out here by Leon. That's going to be the ult. The bead's going to be used out. That's going to be the stealth. The Ao Kuang should be safe. Uzi going to be able to get away as well. No ults used on the side of Baskin and the boys. They're just happy to stay alive.
I love that play from Locked and Goated. I was talking about it just a moment ago. You see there that Mask, even though he's about even with El Leon, realizes at this point in the game, he can't fight. He's actually a level up, but he can't fight into this Surcat. So Locked and Goated are able to steal away that blue buff. They can move into the enemy back camps. They strip away Mask's beads. If they're able to keep this pressure up, next time, it might not just be the invade. It could also be the kill, and there's not much that B&B can do about it because Medusa's in mid and doesn't have that standard mage damage a la Hebo, a la Poseidon, something along those lines. It's going to be much harder for Baskin to peel out for this Ao Kuang.
And just now starting up that Transcendence, so maybe we start to see her impact a little bit, but it kind of goes back to what you were saying in picks and bans. One of the best peel techniques, I should say, that Medusa has maybe outside of her ult is going to be trying to lacerate someone in position, but if you use your dash, all of a sudden now you're the one who's vulnerable, and with a team that has the mobility Locked and Goated have, it's a little bit of a dangerous call. Just like this one, the Gold Fury started up, Stewart has vision, but he's the only one nearby. Baskin and the boys gonna be able to just slip that Gold Fury, not even under the radar, just right in the face of Stewart to kind of prove their point and take the lead.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were worried about in P's and B's. Not Gino with the Dharmic Pillars shredding defense and HP at the exact same time. Dragon Call obviously doing immense damage. I mean, Locked and Goated are going to have to play much more aware around these objectives. One, is it going to be the biggest deal? 1,000 gold split between 5 members in the lead for B&B. That's not a huge deal. If they can contest the next Gold Fury, make sure that this Pyromancer doesn't go down the same way, Locked and Goated are going to be absolutely fine. It's just, we have to be concerned about how well B&B are scaling into the late game, and if Locked and Goated can make it to that mid-late phase from even.
Oh, I love this. Reckless Abandon from Leon in the enemy jungle, running behind the mid-tier 1, and then going in onto Mask, forces him to go ahead and get on out of there. And the retreat from Baskin and the boys, or I guess actually at this point it's the retreat from Locked and Goated, since they're just trying to get back to their own jungle, is going to be there, but it showcases how aggressive they want to be. Ionic, maybe even more so. A good silence from Gino stops him from getting the ult off and trying to grab up Baskin. And that's going to be one of the best things I think this Ganesh can bring. That silence just stopping the setup potential from Ionic in the 3v3 could slow down Locked and Goated.
Ionic's playing so proactively this game. I'm actually really a fan of how he's been trying to maneuver this map. He's trying to keep pressure up. He's trying to make sure that Baskin isn't able to farm up freely. It's just unfortunate that with all this pressure he's been putting onto the map, all these gank attempts he's been trying to put through, he's starting to fall behind a little bit in farm. Not Gino's playing a much more reactive play style. It seems like B&B really do understand that It's not about how well they can fight into the early game. They know that they're going to scale incredibly well. So this Ganesh is allowed to just sit in lane, make sure that no one's really killing his team, and it's going to allow him to pull ahead. Now he's got about a level and a half, 2-level lead.
A little bit of pressure over here on the solo side. Relentless One taking some poke, but nothing out of the ordinary for a solo laner. It's the setup onto Ionic. They could have tried to find something, but they're not going to be able to. Stuart just a couple of hits away from death, but Leon looking to come over and counter this up onto Meerkat. He's going to have to be very careful. A lot of damage in a little bit of time. Leon gets credit for the kill, but a lot of burst from Stuart helps that one out. And unfortunately, Mast is still waiting for that peak to come up, and he's not able to do anything in retaliation.
Man, Leon is playing with fire on these duo lane ganks, man. Meerkat has made it look really hard to put him down in the early, and twice now Leon almost loses his life. Loses it once in that early on first blood gank. He's got to be careful moving on over there, but he's got the right idea of it. You want to shut down the magical hunter, that's going to be Meerkat, but again, Soul's one of the safest ones you can play, and we've already seen there that he's starting to get so much damage online, just Ring of Hecate, that it's going to be very scary the more you want to rotate over there. You might have already missed your opportunity to safely gank Meerkat.
And honestly, even then, early game, it's like, cool, I guess I'll heal if you do some damage to me, or worst case, I'll disapparate, and I'll get out of here without having to use all of my relics. But now, you're getting close to that level 12 mark for the Soul. Meerkat a little bit behind Stuart, so he doesn't quite have that Aegis online if that chooses there. Is that going to be the route he wants to go? But it's Leon right now that's making waves. I mean, going in right here, going to grab the Nike and just eliminate that shield. That's that Sunder online for Relentless One, and Uzzy's going to get put down because of it. That's just a good counter.
Look, this is an argument I've been having with the other casters forever now. Some people still think Nike is viable despite the Sunder changes. For those that don't know, Sunder now completely evaporates shields. If you use any sort of shield, shell, or inside your kit, it's going to get rid of the entirety of it. I think that Nike is so reliant on that secondary health bar in every scenario. If she wants to engage a fight or peel out for herself, it's almost always coming down to, I need this health so that I can stay in the fight a little bit longer, because her burst isn't nearly as fast as some of these other warriors or assassin-esque warriors. I think that in this current state of the game, Season 7, Phase 2, I'm not sure that I'm a huge fan of this Nike pick in general. It's just so weak when you aren't able to use one of your abilities.
And to play devil's advocate, I know a lot of people talk about the slow on her ult and how massive it can be, especially if you're in the middle of a team fight grouped up. And I expect we'll see some big ults like that from Uzzy later on. But like you said, I mean, you get caught out, you're trying to stay alive in there. If you have to be between 5 people for a really big, massive slow, then you really need that extra health in order to either stay alive while you're in there or to give you enough health to get on out of there. That's how we've seen it used in the Pro League. So that Sundering Spear is going to make a big difference. And look at the low cooldown on it. I mean, it's already 30 seconds off of being back. You're not going to have an engagement where I think Relentless One isn't going to have that up while Uzzy has his ult. So they have to play around that pretty carefully. As Locked and Goated seem to recognize that right now it's only Baskin still that's going to make the big difference, but Pythag's piece coming online from Masked, Meerkat starting up a second item. This is starting to be the turning point, it feels like, for Baskin and the boys.
Pythag's piece on Aokwang, that's interesting. Relentless One attempting a speed buff invade, not going to work out for him this time. I like Pythag's piece in that it's going to allow Mass to split off the map. If Baskin and the boys decide to group up on this Gold Fury, it means that Mass can immediately split off, go to Pyromancer, and very easily sold himself. One more item, and we might be looking at a Cyclone Spin situation where this Aokwang should be able to solo out Fire Giant. It's just a ton of lifesteal.
Well, right now they're trying to not solo out Primal Fury, but burn it down like it's nothing. And again, it comes back to that Dharmic Pillars working out well. Relentless One going to get knocked up and locked down in between the rest of members of the Baskin and boys. Ionic going to be able to get some thrown back, and Gino going to get eliminated. It's going to be Pagon going huge right now. Baskin returns 1, but they've lost 3 in the process. Up in the air goes Mass with the execute, and he looks like he wants to go in. Leon is low, and Leon is going to fall, but the ult is going to get some of that damage right back at him. Forces Masked to play a little more carefully. They won't be able to continue their aggression. But that was a very good call, I think, from both teams being able to dance around that.
I agree, but again, B&B come out ahead. They get the 3-for-3 engagement, and they also swing the Gold Fury for themselves, and they didn't lose any of their priority targets. I would say that the 2 people that you want to survive every single fight for B&B are going to be Mast and Baskin. Those are the guys you want to shut down. This Aokwang, with the build that he's running right now, is going to scale much better into the late game than the Aokwang that we saw in the SPL recently with the auto-attacking build. He went every single ring, demonic grip, Telkines. It makes it much harder for that version of Ao Kuang to deal damage, but it seems like he's going to go a much more hybrid build. He already has the Pythags piece, likely going to be a Telkines next, could be a demonic grip if he wants to go into that penetration, but even then, he's going to be absolutely decimating objectives. He's going to deal a ton of damage to the enemy team. Pythag's piece aura item is going to make his entire team much stronger. I think BNB did a very good job mitigating losses and also pulling ahead in that fight.
Yeah, have to pay attention to what else is going to be getting that benefit of the lifesteal. And it's going to be that soul, but right now, it's Gino. Drop the Dharmic Pillars, Leon relatively low, but it's going to be Pegon. The damage from Hebo is just too much. Meerkat locked down, and the 4 members of Locked in the Goat, they're going to be able to burn him like it's nothing. Gino's a little bit low. Uzi is hanging around, but they don't have the damage follow-up. Leon out of this fight right now. Pegon used all of his cooldowns, so he's waiting for it to come back, but Uzi makes a bad call, jumps on in, gets sent through the realms, comes crashing back down, but there's the silence once again, making a big change there from Gino. They're going to be able to chase it in. 1 shot, 1 kill for Pegon to make sure that Uzi goes down, and that's now a 3-for-0 in favor of Locked and Goated.
It looks like BNB just got a little bit of tunnel vision there. They were all looking at El Leon, allowing Pegon to free cast during the team fight, and it just really turns it on them in their head.
And he's still going. He didn't even want to stop. He has no mana left, just enough to cast 1 ability, and that's going to be able to get Gino. And maybe not the most worthwhile kill, killing off the support, but at this point, it feels good, especially because that pressure is going to turn into what is a speed buff invade from Leon. Not going to be able to successfully, does successfully take that one away. So Masked may be infuriated at this point, losing his own buff, waiting to come online and deal more damage, but these team fights don't seem to be going well for the Ao Kuang.
They really aren't, and that's the issue with Ao Kuang in general. If you're an auto-attack based mage, it's hard to deal it in melee range.
Well, now they're going to have to find that out. Once again, the hard way. Baskin goes out with the ult. Leon with a good beads is going to be able to live through that one, but not too much longer afterward. That being said, it's still a 2-for-1 trade. Masked Baskin taken down in the mid lane. This Hebo 6-1-2, now putting pressure onto the mid tier 1. This is a good set of sequences for Locked and Goated.
It's just been a 3-minute long back-to-back team fight phase. One person dies, the fight continues long enough for them to respawn and get back into the engagement. And so far, again, BNB haven't put any pressure onto Pegon in these engagements. He's been able to free cast, go back to base, maintain his health bar. They really need to start addressing this Hebo because 6-1-2, this man is the issue. He's half of his team kills, over half of the kill participation. He's starting to really get his itemization online. Spear of the Magus available. Soul Reaver just gets finished off. The damage output that he just had is getting exponentially worse as time goes on, especially if you're going to keep conveyor belting kills to him.
I mean, you really did just go from focusing down the Cirquette, sometimes the Heimdall, making sure they're low, but Pegon never felt like he was in danger. Like, there's no point in there where I was thinking, yep, the Hebo's about to die. He's the one they're looking at. So he gets the free fire, as you had highlighted, and it makes things, well, pretty solid for the mid laner there for Locked and Goated. Baskin, unfortunately, not being able to do as much, but has finished now Atalanta's and the Odysseus' bow, so a little more of this attack speed build than we've gotten to see out of a Medusa in a while. You know, she is one of those hybrids that could maybe go ability-based if you want. How do you like where Baskin's going to sit now?
Normally when I see Medusa get played nowadays, it's very much the ability-based build. You want to go things like Heartseeker and things like that so you can immediately burst down people and use that Lacerate aggressively. This auto-attack build tells me he's not really willing to get in there. He realized that he's a little bit too far behind to play as aggressively as he'd like. So instead, he shifts his focus, goes a little bit of a cheaper build, and allows him to sit further back in these engagements, deal AoE damage. And against the squishy team like Locked and Goated's, Leon on Circuit, Pegon on Hebo, you've got an Heimdall as well. Odysseus' bow should get a lot of value.
We'll have to see how impactful Baskin can be. Ult available for him. They come into this Dharmic Pillar. He's going to get dropped. Oni Fury goes the way of Locked and Goated. Now they're going to get aggressive. Ionic goes in with the spin, but he's not going to be able to get the dash that he wants or the toss back that they're trying to set up. Relentless One ends up losing his life. Pegon, the mid laner, taken down here, and now the Hebo damage won't be able to return. Stewart is TKO'd. He's not going to be a part of this one, and Leon, left alone, won't be able to pick up anything. Everybody is going back to base. Nobody wants farm after that one because I feel like Baskin and the boys want to take a pivot over towards the Fire Giant pit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. 30 seconds left on 2 respawning from Locked and Goated. That fight was so disjointed. Locked and Goated have been looking really good in these team fights because they've been able to deathball it up. But that time it was just a group of separate engagements, some 2-on-2, some 1-on-2, some 1-on-1s. I got whiplash trying to track that fight, man. My eyes were all over the place, and Locked and Goated weren't able to use all their tools together. Now they're going to have to fight into a 3 versus 5 for the next 10 seconds.
Well, you think 3v5. I was thinking Pyro, but it seems like Baskin and the boys have their eyes on something bigger. Already one hit away is going to be the Fire Giant over the wall. Ends up going Leon. Baskin and the boys confirm the Fire Giant and the Jungler there. Now they're chasing down Ionic. One more hit will do it, and Baskin is going to find himself a double kill. I was questioning it, and he proves it. This attack speed build working out well for the Medusa in the mid lane.
It is looking nice. And now look at all this passive gold they're going to be able to farm up on the map. There are 6 towers left. Yeah, 6 of them. 3 Phoenixes as well. Goldfree should be respawning around the time Baskin and the boys are able to finish up clearing out these towers. But with 2 dead for the next 20 seconds, it might be Phoenix where they decide to go.
All the important fights have been 3v5 right now. Fire Giant not able to be contested too well. It looks like the Execute could come down from the Aokwang. Low is Relentless One, and Gone is Relentless One. So is that Sunder, which means that shield can last for Uzi. Unfortunately, it's not going to mean much for them here as they're backing off. They get the Phoenix, they get themselves another kill, and now they're going to strip away anything and everything they can find in the jungle.
Yeah, this pace is so good for Baskin and the boys. This is the first real gold lead we've seen established this game. I mean, just before that Fire Giant, Baskin and the boys were down 1,000 gold. And the next minute, they were able to establish themselves a 4,000, nearly 5,000 gold lead. And there's still so much passive farm to be available on the map. 4 towers, 2 Phoenixes, the Gold Furies respawning soon. They can back up, spend this huge power spike that they just got for themselves, regroup, start pushing down the left side of the map. They've still got a minute and a half until this Fire Giant buff wears off. They're looking pretty, and they're in a good spot to win this game.
That's insane to me to think there's still 4 towers standing. I guess now on both sides, but I mean, Baskin and the boys had to tear down 2 in that process. So much gold still available on the map for them, and it seems like Baskin and Meerkat know where their next target's going to be. Gino and Uzi going to be joining them on the left-hand side. Not worth defending a Tier 1. Doesn't even seem like Locked and Goated want to try to defend the Tier 2. They're going to have to do something to bounce this back, or else they might lose another Phoenix, because these objectives are going to get shredded fast between the Hunter and the Soul.
Yeah, the siege potential from B&B isn't just down to the fact that they can kill these towers quickly, but they can control space incredibly well. Uzi's going to be disrupting the backline. Gino can just drop a Dharmic Pillars to make a no-play zone. Good luck, Locked and Goated.
Oh, and that's going to be the Frenzy on top of all of that. Ionic trying to do anything to save this one, but that's going to be the Execute from Aokwang. Mask goes up, Mask looking to come down right onto Pagon, forces the ult out of the Hebo defensively. Phoenix is going to be gone. Leon trying to stay alive. The dash is going to be able to get him under the Titan and safe, and it seems like that's enough to ward away Baskin and the boys for right now. You had highlighted they still have a minute on this Fire Giant buff. With 2 towers standing, even though they got the 2 Phoenixes, they don't seem just confident enough to dive under the Titan yet.
There's no reason to. They use so many ultimates on that left side at Siege that really they don't have much left in the back burner to go for the Titan finish. And with 4 members strong on the side of Locked and Goated, I like this slower play style. But Gino absolutely decimates that fight for him. He moves up, drops Dharmic Pillars, separates 4 members away. Ionic's left high and dry. That's an easy pickup when you got 5 members of your team looking at one guy, and the rest of Locked and Goated can't even maneuver in to help him out. I mean, that's just exactly what you need. If Locked and Goated are able to get to their Phoenix just a little bit sooner and make sure that he isn't able to get just as good of a Dharmic Pillars, maybe that defense goes a little bit better, but they were just a little slow on the uptake.
That might be one of the most efficient Fire Giant buffs that I've gotten to see. Not only are you getting all of these kills, maybe even adding one more on top of it. No, Ionic forced to get on out of there. The shield going to help him a little bit, but uses his blink. His frenzy was down a lot being used just to get away there. But you get 6 towers, 2 Phoenixes, all with 30 seconds to spare on top of the kills that you had for the Fire Giant. It's probably one of the most efficient uses I've gotten to see. So Locked and Goated have a lot to try and retaliate. Now that Gold Fury is spawned, you had highlighted a little bit earlier, if you're looking to take the lead even further in your favor, this is looking good for Baskin and the boys. But, oh no, Relentless One and Leon, I thought we're going to wait and try to steal this one away. They end up backing here, just letting this one go on the way to the blue side.
Look, there's nowhere that Locked and Goated are allowed to fight on the map, and I'm including their own Titan at this point. This lead is starting to really snowball out of control. 9,000 in favor of BNB, XP also favoring them. Really, it's not too bad as far as XP goes. It's just El Leon and Ionic that's trying to trick through their way over to level 20. But the itemization, just the gods that they've selected, BNB scaled incredibly well into the late game and made it there with a lead. It's not what you want to see, and it all comes down to just one misplay around that Gold Fury fight where they lose out on 2 members and immediately BNB back to base and get Fire Giant. Now they're going to have to contend with left side minion waves flooding into their base, and this mid Phoenix just now respawning. Locked and Goated is a dangerous defense around Fire.
Now still forced to try and stop that Fire Minion wave in mid, but they didn't do it. Leon leaves them alive, looking to try and get into the backline here, but it's going to be difficult to siege into them. Very, very survivable backliners on the side of Baskin and the boys, as he's going to go in, looking for the slow. He's going to be able to find that one. The Sunder already used, so it's not going to be available to break down his shield. He'll be able to stay alive a little bit, but Masked looking for the 1v1 in the jungle, and it's Baskin picking up the first kill. Relentless One is gone, and it's not a very big fight. Leon finds Uzi Lazy backing in the middle of the fight, and now he's going to get trapped between 2, but Meerkat gets taken down, maybe putting too much attention on the jungler from Locked and Goated, ends up costing them their carry. And now Leon's still sitting back here, waiting like a shark in the water. He sees the blood, and he's going to go for it onto Baskin, jumps in, forces the beads, and honestly, that's enough of a win.
This is so strange from Baskin and the boys. That's twice now that El Leon's been able to just walk up to someone who's been backing, force out something, maybe an ability from Uzi, maybe the beads from Baskin. And it just kind of looks like they're in the shop already. BNB looking like they're a little too comfortable with their lead, not really playing all that alert. But maybe this is why. Look at how quickly this Fire Giant's going to burn away.
Already at half health and going down fast. Eonic's going to be over here, right? Phoenix is back for Locked and Goated, so they could find a defense if this works out well. Eonic gets the spin. Baskin and the boys secure the Fire Giant. Now they're looking to burn through this tank that stands in the front line. Eonic just a couple of hits away from death. That's going to be
nice
the ult from Baskin. The slow applied, the kill picked up, and the mid laner looking to make at least one tear through Locked and Goated. Now, unhealthy middle Phoenix, unhealthy left Phoenix. It's looking very solid once again for Baskin and the boys.
And the siege hasn't gotten any weaker with time. 27 minutes in, they have to contend with Soul, Baskin on this, Medusa. Mask is going to be decimating the front line. If anyone gets dropped low, if Ionic wants to play this frontline character, he's going to have to really contend with getting executed instantly. He doesn't have any CC immunity inside of his build, no Magi's Blessing, no beads in the relic slot, but he might not even respawn in time.
All right, now, yeah, Phoenix going to be in a little bit of trouble as he trying to figure out how to get in here. Baskin as well as Masked and Meerkat could shred this Phoenix if they could just get close to it. But getting close to it is going to be the hard part. You might not have Eonic, but you still have a Hebo. Half health is going to be Hebo now. Pagon getting taken down low. No mana to be able to fight back. Phoenix going to get bursted and popped, and now it's a 5v5. Uzi forced to jump back, but that's going to be the toss through from Eonic. Mask going to get taken down alongside Baskin. A beautiful play from the respawn Xing Qin. They get rid of Gino as well, and now Uzi, Meerkat forced to try and defend and save themselves as they fall back, but they did get left Phoenix on top of that middle Phoenix, so far worthwhile. Leon gonna get the blink forward, not going to be able to find the taunt there, and now it's Relentless One who maybe seems a little too deep. Him, Stuart, Leon, both all three 1/3 HP. You're gonna have to be very careful here. Meerkat is hitting hard, and if you get knocked up like that, it could end up costing you your life. It's a 2v4, and it doesn't seem like Baskin and the boys care. They're gonna be able to pick up one kill here as Meerkat turns it around.
Yeah, Locked and Goated, leave him alone, man. Meerkat's hitting way too hard for you to walk at him at 10% health like that. Maybe had El Leon found the taunt on that initial blink through, it would have gone a little bit differently. But after that, after the miss, they just have to let that one go. I understand that they want to keep pushing their lead. That's the first time they were able to get a clean win over BNB. They lose out on the left Phoenix and the middle Phoenix at the same time. They want to tear something back, but it just doesn't work out.
It's one of those moments where if you had any sort of minion controller pressure, you could have tried to barrel down those left-hand towers, maybe the mid-tier 2. Locked and Goated realistically just save the Titan more than anything there, which is enough as of right now to keep them in the game. Pyromancer gets taken down by Baskin and the boys. This Primal Fury about to respawn, and nobody unlocked and goaded in the neighborhood. Looks like another free objective for them. They might just be waiting the next minute to try and get this Fire Giant, or I guess 2 minutes, for it to respawn to get that Fire Giant back. Only one member left with it, and that's Uzi. And let's be honest, your solo laner, they can make a huge amount of difference in a team fight, but it's not always based around the Fire Giant buff.
Yeah, I completely agree, and even then, Uzi with Fire Giant, sure, it's going to help him out with sustain a little bit, but if he jumps in, goes for the ultimate, what's going to happen? Relentless One hits him with Sunder, and then all of a sudden he's got less defense, less shield, 0 shield, actually. It's not going to be easy for Uzi to really utilize this Fire Giant if BNB decide to go aggressive. So I think you're right to call out that they will look just to wait for this next objective, but I think the best way they can do that is to put up a fake push on right, start to group up on that right side Phoenix plate incredibly slowly. Don't even really try and go for it, but at least force Locked and Goated into responding to that aggression. Make them group up as 5, and that'll allow BNB's waves in mid and the left lane to push up naturally instead of allowing Locked and Goated to push them out themselves.
Well, instead, they drop a ton of wards back, buy a ton of wards, and the vision is going to be big over here in the Fire Giant pit. You can see this right side of the jungle, there's almost no spots that are unseen by the teams. Granted, some of it being covered by one and then some by the other. So it's not all the vision of Baskin and the boys or Locked and Goated, but still, that's a very dangerous game to be playing. If you're Locked and Goated, you're already struggling in these fights. You have that Heimdall. We talked about how important that vision can be around the Fire Giant pit and how it can change things, but it looks like the call is going to be exactly what you had said. Baskin and the boys grouping up on right. Either they get a Phoenix, and that's a big win for them, or they force Locked and Goated into a fight they don't want, and then they get the Fire Giant, and they get a big win.
Yeah, but it seems like they're playing it a little bit hesitantly. They want to see if anyone on the side of Locked and Goated is willing to move up, and it might be Yannick spots out 2 members of BNB, and it seems like it's going to fizzle out right there, not going to step up any further. With the ward coverage that BNB have right now, immediately stripping away the majority of what Locked and Goated have, it's going to be very hard for them to be even willing to step up here. I mean, if any defense happens, it's got to be just Yannick going in alone and potentially going for the Miracle Steal, because if too many members of Locked and Goated move up, even 2 or 3 people die, they're immediately going to lose out on the game.
Relentless One right now doing his best Netrioid impression, but unfortunately, it's not affording him too much. He's going to be able to get this tier 2 tower, so that's going to be worthwhile, but a lot of the times we see a Hunter maybe sent over there instead. If you're going to lose Fire Giant, you could potentially put some pressure on the Phoenix, but I guess they wanted Stuart around, or Stuart safe, either way. They only get that tier 2, but it opens up some win conditions, Mifflin. That's, I think, the biggest thing I always look at. When the towers start disappearing, it's what can you get if you win a fight. Last time around, Locked and Goated get a good Phoenix defense, well, quote-unquote good Phoenix defense. They lose the Phoenix in the process, but they managed to get rid of Baskin and the boys. But there were 3 towers standing. There's no hope for you to really run down mid, get rid of a Phoenix, and kill the Titan. Now it's a little more exposed in terms of the base.
You know, all they need is one clean team fight. One more fight like the last one, and instead of chasing out Meerkat, maybe chase out the dub and go down the left side Phoenix or even the right side. But even then, it's a tall task to ask of them. We got to address the fact that, first off, BNB's Siege is amazing. They've taken out both of these Phoenixes that are weakened twice already, and it was largely uncontested. It hasn't been too hard for them, barring that one fight in mid. But now, Locked and Goated are rapidly approaching. They're all full build. They all have all their ultimates. Every single relic in the game is available, except for Geno's Frenzy, which is going to be a huge determining factor on how easy it is to siege this Phoenix.
Well, Baskin starts out a little bit low as he got smacked down by Stuart, and that's going to be Stuart sending them off into the realms. Relentless One forced to ult to stay alive. Uzi going to get a big ult, and it's going to be a huge slow. Leon going to be alive just barely, but Pagon pays for it with his life. Eonic going to be able to get to the Fountain Time. Same thing for Relentless One. They're going to go ahead and start healing up, but the Titan maybe being the target here, all low on the side of Baskin and the boys. Uzi going to be the first to fall. Then it's Meerkat like it's nothing, masked low, and so is Baskin. They're chasing him down. It's looking like one lockdown on the jungler, but he turns it around onto Relentless One, not going down without a fight. Now Baskin and Geno doing everything they can. The jungler from Locked and Goated gonna bite off more than he can chew this time around. And even though he can flex on it in real life, that time it gets taken down, and Baskin, Geno, they want more. They're gonna go for the Phoenix.
They absolutely should. It's only Stewart alive in this 2v2. If Stewart gets hit by any form of CC, it's either going to lose him his beads or it's going to lose him his life. It's going to be very hard for him to even clear out this wave. As long as Baskin's allowed to touch it once, it should go down relatively easily. But we got to talk about how sick Gino is, man. That peel for Baskin onto El Leon was perfect. The Dharmic Pillars on that siege was perfect. Dharmic Pillars ticked onto Relentless One maybe 5 times, immediately removing him from the fight, forces him to use the Dazzling Offensive defensively and trying to escape into his own base, which creates the space for Uzi to use his ultimate and actually escape out of not only Heimdall ultimate, but also the Sir Ket ult, losing out on so much of Locked and Goated's value. I mean, BNB just played it incredibly well, barring a few missteps on the disengage.
I mean, it's insane to me, Mifflin. You have this fight go down to the fact that there's only 3 people left alive in the game, and Baskin and the boys still end up in a position where they get both Phoenixes, they fall back and get an Oni Fury, and it feels like they aren't breaking a sweat from it, from how smoothly they keep making these transitions with the timers. It really does feel calculated. I know there's a certain point where you can just flow throughout the game, but the way that they're just able to hit this, hit that, and then move forward and still find more objectives has just been impressive to me.
Yeah, it's been working out really well for them. And I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that how quickly they were able to take out those Phoenixes originally. The timers aren't that desynced, so the second one spawns, the other's going to do the same, and when they're both weakened at that state, it means that they can make this double-pronged attack on either single wave. And it's a little bit concerning to me that they haven't been able to clear out these Phoenixes safely, especially considering how weak they have been. So once Locked and Goated gets them to respawn or allows them to heal up to even a little bit towards half health, it might become that much harder for BNB to siege it out. And BNB have had every single advantage going into these fights. They have the Fire Giant. They've already got Firemen in waves. They're coming in with a gold lead. And they still haven't been able to cleanly win on these engagements. I think we've got to give a lot of props to Locked and Goated being able to reflect so many pushes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been insane. The response time, I should say, from Stewart as well as Pagon. I mean, you know, he's getting eliminated right now as his Hebo, but he's still 8-3-4. He's finding a lot of kills in the process. Stewart maybe 3-1-10, a lot of assists to his name, but a lot of the time these ults just taking someone out of the fight for just a few precious moments is making the big difference for them. Unfortunately, it hasn't been enough to stop those Phoenixes from falling. Even though now they're weakened, it's going to be even more difficult to do so. That leaves them in this position once again where Fire Giant's going to respawn, and there's nothing Locked and Goated can do about it. And this time, maybe even less so. The last couple of times they've at least tried to fight. Now, there's nothing they can do over here.
Yeah, 4th first, same as the first. Fire Giant's going to go to Baskin and Boys for absolutely free, but this time that left side Phoenix hasn't respawned just yet. That mid Phoenix is just over halfway respawning. Usually, when we got to this point, BNB had to re-clear those Phoenixes, but now they can concentrate their efforts on right and allow these Fire Minion waves to leak in and potentially take out the Phoenixes on their own. Locked and Goated have to make a hard decision. Do they want to set up a 5-man defense here and take the team fight, or send someone over to that left side and potentially save the Phoenix?
You can see Relentless One stuck in a position trying to defend against Masked, who's looking for a tasty gank over here onto the right-hand lane. Phoenix getting eviscerated,
Tough.
Gone before I could even look at the health bar. Ionic gonna jump on in, looks for his ult, and he's going to be able to grab no one this time around. The minions get flung back. The shield from Uzi going to be huge. The slow going to stop
Titan.
the aggression from Locked and Goated. And the Titan's just gone. Masked didn't even go for the gank. He went for the kill, and because of that, it's just over.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit more heads up on that one, Leon. Can't let Mask close the distance on your Titan at all. 3 Phoenixes down, it means it has no HP, no defense. There was about 3 Fireman waves that had already leaked in. I mean, it was a slow stranglehold from BNB. You'd expect that game to go a lot quicker, especially considering how quickly they were able to take out that first round of Phoenixes. I think if Locked and Goated can clean up that early game a little bit, or even the mid game, and transition themselves into an even state in the late, allow them the opportunity to at least try and defend one Fire Giant, we might be looking at a game 3.
Well, I think a lot of what you had said, was applicable in that first game, right? Their early game where they maybe could have been pressuring this Ao Kuang a little bit more, pressuring the Soul a little bit more. And when it finally started to click, it almost felt like it was just a smidge too late. They were still able to get the tail end of the lockdown, but not enough that you could feel them gaining that lead. And even though you have an immense amount of damage coming down from Relentless One, as well as Pagon, and even Stewart up there with the 25k, it just wasn't enough when they got into the backline. That execute ate through anybody that happened to get in their way, but it would be good against Relentless One as well as Eonic. And I think Mask, once he hit that very damaging portion of the game, there wasn't much you could do about the Yao Kuang.
There wasn't, especially in the 1v1s. We saw Mass struggling a little bit when it was actual 5-on-5 engagements, which is why I think it was incredibly smart for B&B on that last push to decide, okay, Mass, you can't really move in aggressively. You get touched by Hebo, you're going to die, so we'll give you the 1v1. Go split off mid, potentially take out Leon, or if we create enough space, and they did, Locked and Goated decided to chase out B&B as 4 members on that right side Phoenix. Yeah, just go kill the Titan. He's got to auto-attack it like 4 times. You could do that, right? And he absolutely could.
Yeah, it's always one of those moments you underestimate, maybe I underestimate, how good Fire Minions are, how good Enhanced Fire Giant is, or just how good Ao Kuang is. It's one of the 3, maybe all 3 of them to a certain extent, where he's just able to jump back there like it's nothing. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do for it now as we move forward to picks and bans of game number 2. This is where things get interesting to me, because as you had pointed out, and I think as is applicable here, Locked and Goated never felt out of that match. They always felt, well, there's a certain point where, yes, they did feel out of that match towards the end, but they always were bouncing back a little bit for Baskin and the boys until the end. There was either 1 or 2 kills they would pick up, and if they can maybe get off to a better start, this could be a 3-game set.
I absolutely agree, man. And I don't think that B&B, or rather Locked and Goated, need to change up their ban phase too much, because with the draft that B&B had in game 1, you realize that they're looking for late game. Medusa, Soul, and Ao Kuang all have incredibly weak early. If you kind of trick B&B into taking those exact same picks, again, it allows you the opportunity to change up your own picks. Don't slot so many late game gods. Maybe pick something that can transition well into the early. I'm thinking gods like Raven or Thor out of the jungle, a hunter in mid like On Her or something along those lines, and play aggressive and exploit the fact that B&B weren't really looking to get proactive in the early game. The first 15 minutes, B&B were completely dedicated to farming, and that's 15 minutes where Locked and Goated should have free reign of the map so long as they draft a team around it.
Well, right now, Persephone, Oleron, Freya, all similar bans from game number 1, but that Ganesh, kind of earning its spot, I think, is what we could say for Gino. There is the first ban from Locked and Goated, and this time they will be under first pick. They get rid of that Cthulhu, and it is always that question of what's still available. What are you picking up with Emoji gone? I mean, the whole floor is open in terms of god potential. So, I mean, you earn that Ganesh ban if you're Baskin and the boys. Does that really hurt them as much as you would like it to? I mean, it was very, very potent, but now you've given up, or I guess if you're Locked and Goated, you've grabbed this Nemesis, but was the Ganesh the central issue?
I think Ganesh afforded them a lot of opportunity to move aggressively. When you have a team that's so damage-centric and you really are sacrificing a little bit of frontline, knowing that Uzi can't use that Sentinel of Zeus at all to really use that secondary health bar because of Sunder, Dharmic Pillars becomes this fantastic engage and space control tool that now is no longer available to them. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other Guardians that are going to be able to do similar things. You could play gods along the lines of Khepri to make sure that your late-game team fights go a lot better. You can just drop a Scarab's Blessing on Baskin, and I don't care what Baskin's playing, reviving him is likely to win you a team fight just because he's so good. Yeah, but with the bans coming through as they are, they leave a lot of meta picks available. I'm surprised to see that Baskin and the boys don't decide to go towards the Amaterasu. Amaterasu got so much value from Relentless One last game that likely Locked and Goated is going to take it for themselves, and they get potentially the best in slot jungler alongside Nemesis. That's a pretty strong draft for Locked and Goated.
Yeah, but, I mean, you saw Soul and what Meerkat was able to do there last time. The Hebo being able to be very prominent against Baskin and the boys, maybe picking it up. And this is actually one of those picks I like to see in the jungle, just knowing that you can immune those slows from Nemesis, maybe making that difference, but it is slower to come online. So Baskin and the boys may be leaning a little bit more on that late game once again. As the Xing Qin, the Uller come through, if I'm looking at Locked and Goated, this just bleeds pressure in my mind. Like, there's nothing else that they're going to be able to do except dominate the lane.
Yeah, Uller is what I like to call the best magical ADC killer. I mean, when Ring of Hecate exists, when Typhon Fang exists, all this lifesteal available to them. I mean, even the boots for magical hunters allow them to get more lifesteal, 7% from Shoes of the Magi. You want to play a god that can immediately kill someone off of CC. Axe stun into hail of arrows into bladed arrows, that should be enough to kill just about anybody. Freya, Oleron's Soul as well, or at least force out the beads and then try it again later. And I like this pickup. They know that they can't really slot themselves another magical hunter. Sure, you could look towards the Chronos, but that's a bit of a niche pick right now. So instead they take the next best thing inside of Uller, match it up with a fantastic Guardian that can engage and find the CC. I mean, this is a good duo lane from Locked and Goated, but we need to see them use it. Last time they had a pretty strong duo lane as well, and they still got out-pressured by the Soul.
We'll have to see, yeah, like you said, how they can make this work out for them as Cupid gets locked in on the other side for Baskin and the boys. Raijin, Amaterasu banned out over there, and then Locked and Goated take out the Jormungandr, and then that Nike, even though the Nike actually ended up being very worthwhile. I mean, early on, we got to see use of that Sunder to make sure that her shield didn't exist. It ended up working really well against Uzi. And then later on, it just never seemed to line up again. You know, I had mentioned that it felt like there was almost never a point where you would see the ult up without the Sunder, but I can count, at least in my head, off memory, 4 times that I got to see Uzi jump into the back, get a like 3 or 4 man slow, and keep the shield for the next minute while he's just dominating anybody who happens to be in the back line.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Locked and Goated were kind of getting thrashed towards that late game, so Relentless One was getting forced out of the fights very early on, which created the space for Uzi to move up and not get sundered. I think that, again, Nike did get a lot of value. We even saw that she was very close to the top of the damage charts, but there's still plenty of picks that he can go to that aren't that. Cerberus, King Arthur, both fantastic soul laners. I like it. I'm not sure how the matchup's going to line up. King Arthur usually slots Soul Leader very early on in the build. Cerberus is going to be able to mitigate a lot of that healing and take some of it for himself as well. As far as damage potential goes, they should be around parity. Whichever Soul Laner gets more ganks, I think, is going to be able to get the edge in that lane.
Yeah, and you've seen the mighty fallen, essentially, here for King Arthur. He used to be one of the top picks, top bans, and now it kind of just thrown to the wayside. I'm excited to see how it works down here, though, for Baskin and the boys, because, I mean, if you're going to have Uzi run something that's unconventional, then I think putting him on something that used to be really strong could showcase maybe why it still is. But it's the Merlin, now the Fafnir, finishing up the drafts. I mean, Baskin and the boys have a little bit, it feels almost the exact same as what I was going to say last game. A little bit of early game into a whole lot of late game, but is there enough on Locked and Goated to pressure that out early this time around?
There really isn't, man. Nemesis in the jungle is going to take a little while to scale up to the point where she can get involved, especially if she decides to go towards that auto-attack-centric build. And if I know anything about him, El Leon really does like Golden Blade, so it is likely he's going to go that direction with it. The only lane that should really be getting a ton of pressure is Duo, which is a fantastic place to fight through. If you want to get pressure in any lane, Duo is a good one because it's near the Gold Fury. I'm just worried about the rest of the map. This Cupid is going to be an absolute problem out of mid.
Well, it's going to be their second chance to take down Baskin and the boys here. Maybe a big one for Locked and Goated. They had a lot of great moments throughout game number 1. Now it's just taking those moments and turning them into something more. With a lead maybe on top of it, it's the question of how and where they'll find it. We're looking at the duo lane, but my eyes are perpetually going to be on Leon. He was very ready to fight, had a lot of good moments of picks where he could try to lock someone down. And if he decides to just stop Meerkat from playing the game for a little bit, I think that's something he's going to be able to do. But it's still going to take a little bit of time for him to get to that point, which might make it too late to be able to stop this Soul, especially once Disapparate's online. It's just so difficult to burn her down.
Agreed. I got to make a little bit of an adjustment to the calls pre-game there. It does look like Elion is going to go for that Mace Tree build, likely going to be either Jotun's Wrath or Brawler's Beatstick. So this ability-based Nemesis is going to scale up a lot more quickly than the auto-attack one, and it's going to make it a lot easier to gank out this duo lane based on how much CC duo has. Xing Shen or Uller lands any form of CC, followed up with Slice and Dice from Nemesis. Could be very easy. Keep your eyes around level 3. We might see a gank.
And keep your eyes really on Ionic and Stewart and what they're going to be able to do. Both of them having played in the Pro League this year. You can expect a lot out of a duo lane like that, but also those stunts. If that axe connects, maybe we're having a different conversation right now, but that's what he's going to bring. I mean, you had said kill off of CC, and I think this is a kill lane through and through, especially early on. The damage from Ionic right now is immense, but he's taking too much in return. They dropped the shell, but it doesn't matter. Ionic is going to get burned down there. Nothing to try and save his life.
I understand the mentality. Stewart was getting a lot of pressure put on him there, so Ionic decides, I have to move up. I gotta make sure my ADC doesn't die. Extremely support voice. And it does save Stewart's life, but it costs him his own. Does get Shell in response, though, so it does open them up to a gank.
Now, being able to make that a little easier, low mana now for Gino as well, means maybe Stewart isn't really on his last leg. Of course, Ionic now, he's already back in lane. That's how fast the respawn was. And you said level 3. Leon says level 2. He's going to come in, slice and dice, going to be able to find it. One more hit's all you need, and that's going to be the kill. Going the way of Ionic with the help of his 2 carries. And Gino's going to stay alive on that one, but that's a good burn down on the soul.
That is, I was surprised to see that he decided to prioritize out the soul instead of the support there. Gino would have been a very easy kill, and it would have mitigated the lead that's already been established since Fafnir did pick up first blood. Now both supports get themselves a kill. They should be around even again. That's a good job from LAON to address the fact that your dual lane's struggling a little bit in the early. They're going to need some help. Immediately rotates over much faster than you would expect from your jungler. Usually it is level 3 where they decide to rotate in, but instead comes on over, finds his team a kill, well played, and he might even look to circle back.
Yeah, I love this. He went, took away the XP camps, now looking for the purple buff here. But even if you get this, I mean, it's a free drop, and Gino and Meerkat are none the wiser. Doesn't look like he's going to come back in for another fight. He's going to be able to strip some of that farm away to help make sure his duo lane is comfortable. Ionic, though, will be in an uncomfortable spot as he gets forced back, and Leon didn't get the back off. That ward will catch him, and now he's kind of, well, up the river. Does have his paddle, though. The double dash is going to be able to help steer him right and get him on out of there. The mana is a little low. The health bars for his duo lane too low, so they're just going to call it at that.
That's tough, though. That hesitation on whether or not he wanted to gank there from LAO is going to cost him a lot of XP. He clears out the purple, sure, he steals away those back camps, but he spends about 20 to 30 seconds just kind of hovering the jungle, starting a back, canceling the back, moving up, backing out, backing again, and it's going to cost him that lead that he'd already established from getting that assist and that invade. Now he was about a level and a half up. He should be around the same level as Mask now.
And he just, at this point, I think trying to stay alive. And, well, successful overall. Mask is the one I'm curious about, especially when his name is going to become more part of the conversation. It feels like last game that was the evolution of Masked, which was just, okay, he doesn't exist. Now he's huge. Just off the mark there is Meerkat in terms of getting one more hit onto Stewart. Could have slowed him down potentially to find that kill, but it's going to be Leon now going in on Baskin. Fields of Love going to be used, and that's one of the greatest weaknesses that Nemesis has, and that's going to save Baskin's life for now. But Ionic's coming on over, Pagon's here. It's hard to tell if Locked and Goated want to dive this tier 1 tower just yet. The minions are around. I think they're going to let it rest at that as Ionic's going to get forced to fall back. Baskin maybe even looking to try and turn something around with Mast here and Gino.
I love the playstyle from Baskin, playing aggressive despite being at a quarter health, despite not having the ultimate, knows that he still has the dash available, and there's nothing that Ionic can do to stop him. He's just going to continually use those hearts to resustain and not have to back himself. That's the sign of a player that's been playing for a very long time at an incredibly high level, is just knowing what you can do, what the margins of error are, and it allows him to return 50% of Ionic's HP bar. Well played.
And he just calls their bluff, right? There's no way this Cupid's going to fight anymore. And Baskin just goes, bet. And comes right back in. And again, not to turn anything around, but just to show that he's not afraid of them, I think, more than anything. Now Meerkat, a little low health. Stewart around with the gank from Ionic. They're looking for something. They're finding some damage. That's going to be the shell and the ult from Gino. Puts Meerkat in an awkward position. Stewart going to find the stun onto the dragon, looking for the burn down, but it's Ionic who loses his life this time around. They're going to be looking for more. Stewart has a lot of damage to his name. Meerkat can't come back in because of the range, but it's not going to matter. They still get away with murder.
It's the same as last game. In the early, Ionic is trying to get proactive everywhere on the map. He's rotating mid, trying to return damage. He's coming back to duo and trying to return damage. And it's costing him a little bit of XP. He rotates into that fight at level 4, does finally tick over to level 5, but Gino, already being 5, realizes, okay, well, if I go into dragon form, I'm just going to be able to solo him myself and likely walk out for free, because Stewart had already used every single ability trying to kill Meerkat. That's good recognition, but it just seems like Ionic's trying way too hard to get proactive in the early. He needs to slow it down a little bit and make sure he maintains an even level of farm with Gino.
Now the pressure I was expecting in duo doesn't seem to exist as much as they wanted. Now I think we're watching what Locked and Goated, or I should say what Baskin and the boys would like to see from themselves, where every single one of their carries is able to stay online. Soul not quite at that Ring of Hecate, and Habois here for Mask, not quite at his big power spike. And whether it's a Bancross Talon or maybe a Typhon's Fang if he wants to go more lifesteal later on as well, it's going to be a big power spike no matter what. That's what I'm waiting for, is that other shoe to drop that is Hebo in the jungle. Once it picks up, it just doesn't seem to stop after that point. And that's, I think, where Baskin and the boys are playing around it. They're waiting just a few more minutes, and that's going to start happening.
Yeah, and it's still this very late game centric team. A Hunter in mid, a Magical ADC, and a Mage in the jungle for B&B, and still Locked and Goated haven't been able to find any form of pressure. The jungler is slightly ahead, the mid laners slightly behind, but it hasn't been enough from Locked and Goated to really mitigate this late game team. They haven't really put any lead anywhere that's going to amount to anything. Locked and Goated need to find some picks, need to do something proactively, then move into this gold tree and remove that opportunity from B&B. It's just where they got to find it. They didn't slot themselves an early game jungler. This Nemesis is also looking to scale into the late. It's going to be pretty tough for Locked and Goated to mitigate what B&B are going for here.
I think that Gold Fury you had mentioned, probably the biggest point as of right now. Pretty easy to burn down once you hit a certain point in the game and have a couple of items online. I don't think either team are confident in their ability to burn it down just yet, but that's what I'm looking for after a big team fight. And they're, honestly, it's one of those jungle objectives that is much easier than you think it's going to be, while simultaneously hitting way harder than you think it will. So you have to be very careful when you get aggressive with it. I think Baskin and the boys, I mean, at this point, they're just kind of relaxing as they wait for Baskin to finish off his Transcendence. Maybe get aggressive. But you can see the grouping, the ward coverage starting to crop up over here on the left-hand side of the map. They're aware where that objective can go and how easily it could be snuck out from under them. Locked and Goated playing aggressively. They want that advantage. If you can get a Gold Fury early and as Locked and Goated, I think that can just be the start of a beautiful snowball.
Yeah, right now we haven't seen any sparks flying in that solo lane either. Neither team's really rotating out. No advantage has been established over there, which is exactly what we expected to see from that wet noodle fight lane. Cerberus and King Arthur against each other, neither one should really get the advantage. But I think it is interesting to point out that Uzi isn't going towards that sustain build in Soul Eater. Instead, it looks like he's going to be working his way into a runic shield, likely to deal with that magical damage from the Guardian and the Mage and his lane opponent as well. So he's going to get a lot of value out of it. But he is going to be sacrificing a little bit of cooldown, a little bit of pen that he could have got from Soul Eater itself. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Going for the Runic Shield this early on means that they're going to be looking for a team fight very early, because Soul Eater being a stacking item, kind of want lane.
Well, geez, he didn't even get to drop fast enough. Leon just got burned before anybody would have expected it. It's two ults dumped into the jungler there. And that was just Baskin and the boys. I mean, there's a command for it. VVVA, set up an ambush here. That was probably the best example I've ever seen of that ability. Just laying in wait in the jungle, and not even a misstep. Just trying to walk back to your own buff. And of course, you get burned down there. Mass, I think, starting to show up now that Bancroft's Talon is finished. That's a huge power spike when you get it, 100 power. So it's going to help out this Hebo. And I think maybe open up a lot more like that.
Yeah, and he's going to immediately move to the Typhon's Fang as well. So you got 50% lifesteal from Bancroft. You've got 7% from Shoes of the Magi. He's already got another 6% here. It's going to be hard to shut him down because of all the relative health he's going to have through sustain in his own kit. There's no real anti-heal coming out besides Brawler's Beatstick and Divine Ruin so far from Locked and Goated. It doesn't seem like that's going to be enough to stop him. And Mask playing this late game god on Hebo is already got a lead over Nemesis. It's about a half level, maybe a little bit more than that. It's not looking too good, and we've already seen what the damage potential it can be. That ambush, I mean, Leon might as well just stepped into a bear trap and lost his leg instantly. I mean, things aren't working out, and Locked and Goated haven't been able to get proactive anywhere on the map.
And that's only highlighting lifesteal. That's not even highlighting the fact that Typhon's Fang, if that is the option here for Mask, then takes all those lifesteal numbers, adds double that lifesteal number to him as power. Like, if you want to one-shot people, well, he's going the build for it right now, and I think it's going to cause a lot of distress for Locked and Goated as time goes on. But it is that question. I mean, Merlin really good at applying that Divine Ruin, so maybe the lifesteal number's only getting converted to that power, maybe not making as big a difference in terms of survivability. You've got this Cerberus, even though we haven't talked much about him, that has that anti-heal passive in him, and maybe that setup potential to cause some trouble for Mast and Baskin as they go forward. But as of right now, it doesn't seem to be causing trouble for anybody. Ionic forced on out of there. Fields of Love used at that. And Baskin has no issues throwing that ult out whenever necessary, and it seems like the rest of the team is all for it.
Yeah, he's got CDR from Transcendence. He's feeling just fine sticking around. Likely going to see Fail not get picked up, but a gank in Soul Lane is going to line Mast up for another kill. And it's not often you get to say that Hebo is going to outpace an enemy jungler.
And it's working out well for them as of now. The stun going to be just off the mark there from Stewart, and the aggression seems to be popping off a little bit of everywhere. I think Merlin making a good call to try and peel for his jungler. Wasn't necessary since they decided to fall back. Baskin and the boys, they took the notes of when can we get aggressive, and they decided to dial it up. I mean, 12 minutes in, they're looking for blue buff invades, even a little bit of eyes on that speed buff, just trying to find anything and everything. And Meerkat, and maybe the only one that's susceptible to a gank here, is, you know, the safest of all of the magical carries you could have in the game. It's just so difficult to find out who to lock down.
Yeah, already Meerkat was starting this game with a slight level deficit, but being left alone for so long has allowed him to refarm it up. He's got level parity against Stewart. Not what you want to see from your Uller. You pick that god to absolutely dominate a lane, not just sit inside of it, because he's going to get outscaled if they're both just allowed to sit in the long lane and farm up for free. B&B are 3 times happier about it, and they've been able to farm up everywhere on the map and pick their own fights. Now 4-1 is the slash line. We're looking at about 1,000 gold deficit, and this is the point of the game last match where B&B decided to get a lot more proactive around these objectives. They're going to continue looking to set up these ambushes like we saw in El Leon on those bottom left mid camps, and then immediately transition themselves into Gold Fury, where they have phenomenal burn potential. Now Ring of Akate is available to Soul, Atalanta's bow is coming online for that Cupid, and then just barring all that burn potential from these 2 hunters, essentially, they've got confirmed potential from Mast out of the jungle. Crushing Wave might just be the hardest hitting ability in the game right now.
On Mast, we had talked about the options he has. Goes for the Pythax Beast a second time here, which I think is going to end up helping out Meerkat in the long run. So again, playing kind of the team style that he did with Ao Kuang, and still with the ability to burst in a 1v1. You do not want to get caught out by him. So far, looking pretty good on the side of Baskin and the boys. 3 kills up, 2,000 gold, almost 2,000 gold, about 1,500. And now they're getting, you know, their Atalanta's their 3rd, technically 4th item if you want to count that blessing in there. Online, it feels like Locked and Goated have to find, you know, the perfect pick, right? They have to find somebody who's making a mistake on Baskin and the boys. And right now, there's not many, if any, to be counted.
Yeah, there aren't. They're just farming up safely. Baskin and the boys got themselves a small lead in the early, and they're like, okay, we'll just keep growing it. We're going to outscale them anyway. But here we go. Gold Fury started up. Ionic's the first one on the scene. Going to have to use his blink.
And now it's looking like he might be in a rough spot. 4 members of Baskin and the boys ready to try and burn him down. That's going to be the ult, but he doesn't connect with anybody. Nobody had to use their beads or anything to get away from that. So Ionic eats a big cooldown for nothing so far. Does stop the Gold Fury attempt, though. That means, I would argue, maybe a win for Locked and Goated, just stopping Baskin and the boys from getting further ahead, but they are not warded off it completely. They're just going to go ahead and start it right back up.
Because they have so much sustain in their kit, Cupid can keep dropping hearts and elongate this fight and force Locked and Goated to take a disadvantage. It seems like it might not even get to that point.
Nope, Leon blinks in, but it's just a hair too late, or just off the mark. Baskin and the boys confirmed that one. Uzi maybe left by himself, Relentless One, if he can get a good long-range stun, might find somebody that he can feed to his team, but Baskin and the boys again just playing grouped up and in a comfortable position now, getting aggressive. Ionic gonna get locked down. Fields of Love comes through and Baskin just burns through him. Gino ults when it might not have even been necessary for them, but now they're gonna be able to take that aggression, that ult, turn it into something more. They're looking at the Pyromancer.
And they absolutely should. Coerce is going to be huge here. Already in the dragon form, going to speed up the damage. They know Stewart can't get there. Pyromancer falls for free as well. And we're starting to see the first big lead of the game. But Meerkat, you're in a little trouble, bud.
Well, finally you get to see what you wanted out of this Uller. Getting aggressive, a couple more hits is all it takes, and that's going to find it. The Disapparate, not enough. The Aegis, not enough. Stewart gets the damage to find the solo kill under the tier 1, and it forces out a rotation from what looks like Baskin and Gino. They're going to turn their eyes towards Leon. Might be too much for them. The jungler going to be able to get saved thanks to Gino not hitting that hammer. And now they're going to be able to back off, pulling back the reins ever so slightly, but at least keeping a foot in this game in terms of that Uller.
Man, Gore, I was trying to like emphasize or at least put to words how I feel Baskin and the boys are playing right now, and I think the vibe they're putting off is very lazy Sunday morning. It seems like everything that's coming their way is coming easily. They're probably listening to some lo-fi chill hop or something along those lines because it's just really passively winning the game. They aren't going out of their way to make proactive plays. They just kind of line up for them, and it's been working out magnificently. They've established a 4,000 gold lead. They've got objective control, map control. They've got a lead on just about every single role. Now Locked and Goated have to claw it back somehow.
Well, let's see if they can do it here. They're trying to get rid of Baskin. Fields of Love going to ward off the attack, but Leon's still getting aggressive. The dash going to be good. Leon chasing him down, and he's going to be able to find it, but he's taken up into the air, actually out of the ult from Masked, but he does still get his health bar burned down. Gino gets the stun on the Relentless One. He's going to jump away from the tower. There's still 4 members standing on the side of Locked and Goated, but make it 3 as they burn through 1. Uzi trying to figure out who he can help slow down, lock down, whatever next for his team. Masked looking in the jungle, but they don't have enough. Meerkat is over there pushing down towers instead of joining the fight, and honestly, it's paying off for them, at least so far, because there's not much Stewart can do to try and stop this one. On level, the damage is going to be there. Masked coming up behind, the ult dropped by Meerkat. Gino rotating in as well, but his help isn't going to be necessary. They get the kill, and they get the pressure. Now purple buff going to go down, and this tier 2 forcing out a teleport, of all things, from Relentless One.
And Mass didn't spot it out until it's too late. Positions himself inside the tower. Is going to allow Relentless One to find a ton of damage.
Oh, wow. Might be able to find the kill as well. Relentless One stunned out, locked down. Gino doing everything in his support power to stop this man from getting the kill, and I think he just saved Mask's life. Meerkat's going to be safe as well. That's just great support play.
Dude, I love to see it. He said, oh, my CC's down. What do I have left? My body is enough. And stands between Relentless One and an easy kill on a Mass. That's my favorite play to see, man. Every single god, every single role is capable of doing it, but you don't get to see it too often. And all of that play starts off with Locked and Goated trying to get proactive inside the Tier 1 mid tower. Sure, they pick up Baskin, but they lose out on a Tier 1 tower and left 3 of their lives. I mean, again, it's just BNB casually winning this game. They didn't want to fight there, but they won it anyway.
I mean, being able to go through, I really do imagine their comms, because of the way you keep describing it, it's like, hey guys, you think we can get that kill? Yeah, let's try it. Like, you know, maybe we get aggressive here. Sure. Like, they're just relaxed, and it doesn't seem to have any urgency to it. I think that's the best way to word it, where it's just, they don't, they're winning. You know, they're not in a rush for anything. They just know, hey, we're going to take this fight, and it's going to be fine afterward. So they're going to have to continue that route. Only 3 deaths to them, 2 of them on the Meerkat there, and now he's getting to the point, especially with the Typhon's Fang. At this point, it's going to be very difficult to eliminate this soul in any fashion that isn't committing 4 people to try and lock her down. And I think that's going to be pretty solid over here in the duo side of things, especially if they keep this up. So far, Meerkat hadn't been big in team fight presence, but has been big on, well, objective-oriented presence, either around the Furies or maybe on the towers. It's going to be Eonic this time who gets aggressive. Gino going to jump over the wall, but Leon's waiting right there. That's going to be a slow. The Dragon Form first out. That's going to be the immunity for a little bit, but then stunned down and burned down by Pagon. Well played, well weighted by Locked and Goated, turning this into a 4v5.
A 4v5 right as the Oni Fury spawns as well. Now BNB fighting into a disadvantage. Relentless One blinks in, finds the ultimate.
And Uzi going to do whatever he can in the backline to try and stop this. Relentless One gets burned down faster than I think he thought he would. Baskin's going to be able to find the kill there. Uzi still alive, looking to figure out where he wants to go, and it's going to be out of the fight. Masked, Baskin, Meerkat, a lot of damage between the 3 of them, but not a lot of tankiness here. Uzi backs to base, looking to teleport right back into the fray. This is going to cause some trouble. No one from Locked and Goated gets in there in time for the Oni Fury. They're going to be able to confirm that one. Now the pressure is up for Baskin and the boys, and they still want some kills. Uzi more than willing to jump into this mid lane and try and find more of a fight.
Bro, I just gotta chuckle to myself a little bit. That fight starts off as a 5 versus 4 in favor of Locked and Goated, and somehow Baskin and the boys just ease their way into another Gold Fury. Oni Fury to be exact. I mean, it really is just everything's lining up for them. And now at this phase of the game, 20 minutes in, the majority of Baskin and the boys rapidly approaching level 20, rapidly approaching 5th or 6th item. They can start to group up, remove the laning phase entirely, and just try and position around these fire giants. Use the sustain and Cupid's kit. Those hearts are going to be hugely impactful in these fights, and just continually force elongated fights around these objectives. If not fire giant, at least pyromancer. If not that, even the tier 1 mid tower to remove that bastion of safety and make it much easier for them to work their way into these objectives. Because right now, B&B 7,000 gold up. I don't think they need to farm anymore. They can just go fight wherever they want.
I mean, at this point last game, you know, they didn't get this massive lead. I mean, it was pretty even until a fire giant fell and Baskin and the boys were able to start taking some towers down. Now they've got that 7k lead just out of the bat. If you get a fire giant here, there's 4 towers left standing as opposed to the 6 they had to burn down last time. You're more than comfortable taking more and more objectives. Again, the term snowball is always applicable just because it starts out so small. It was a 1k gold lead, and then they just rolled it down the hill, and now you've got the bottom of a snowman. The question is whether or not they can build the rest of him. It's all up to Locked and Goated whether or not that's going to happen. Pyromancer going to go their way as of now. Gino's there, but no one's going to jump in from Baskin and the boys to try and stop that. They do look to slow down Ionic, and he goes in to try and de-ward here, but now they're looking to collapse in on the support. It's not going to be enough. He does still have some safety nets, so he's going to be able to walk away.
22 minutes into the game, mark it down in your books. Meerkat decides to rotate out of lane for the first time, regrouping with the rest of his team for a mid-tower push. Now we're looking at B&B with full 5-man strength.
And, of course, the tower goes down thanks to that soul's presence, but more importantly, the presence of a soul around a fire giant can mean, well, usually only one thing, and that means the target is set onto that fire giant. Ward coverage, solid from Baskin and the boys, and again, just piled up on top of each other, waiting around the wall, see who they can see. The fire giant going to go down to about half health here. Ionic looking to get in. Baskin and the boys going to burn it down before anybody on Locked and Goated can jump in, but now it's going to be Relentless One trying to find something. Ionic goes in deep, almost loses his life, but manages to stay alive. Masked turns that one around with barely anything left, does get taken down, as does Meerkat, thanks to Stewart. Ionic still low, but there's not enough carries left to maybe turn this one around. They get rid of the jungler and support from Locked and Goated, and they're chasing him down.
Stun.
The low health bars are going to be huge. Gino doing anything in his power to set this up. Baskin has to rotate back in, though. He's half health as a Cupid, and the hearts, they're going to pay their weight in gold. He's going to get aggressive on this one. Heart Bomb going to be able to find the kill. They might leave 2 alive, but they still walk away with the fire giant and a carry that has it around their belt. They're happy.
And look, the wave's already pushed up for him. Look, man, it's got to be Hindu Man's script. Maybe they've got a lesser deity on their side, but everything just lines up perfectly for B&B to get whatever they want, and they get the tier 2 tower there. Midwave's already pushed up as well. They can likely pick up another tower here. I mean, it's just clean play from Baskin and the boys. But again, Locked and Goated do a good job. El Leon, almost as a solo agent, was able to dive into the back line and work through the peel from Gino, work through the peel from Uzi, and still somehow, through all the relics, through all the ultimates, picks up the kill on the Mast. It's clean play, but at the end of the day, Baskin and the boys pick up 2 tier 2 towers, Fire Giant. I mean, they win the team fight. Things are just working out for them. Sure, Mast and Meerkat won't be having Fire Giant on this next push for the next 3.5 minutes at least, but that's not too much of a concern. You still have it on one of your hunters inside of Baskin, so he's going to be shredding objectives. And this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I think Fire Giant is hugely impactful and maybe most important to keep on your tank so that they can sustain up through this objective damage, so they can sit inside these towers and reset it slowly and work their way in. It's going to be very hard for Locked and Goated to fight into this.
I'll even help facilitate your argument there and just say that Mask not having it does mean, you know, less sustained, but oh, boo-hoo. The Pythags piece and Bancroft's talent are going to have to put their work in to keep him alive this time around. I don't think he's going to be too sad for it. Meerkat maybe not going to be able to shred the towers down quite as quickly as we saw last game, but either way, I think having it on Baskin they're happy with, Uzi and Gino they're happy with how aggressive they can get, and I was expecting to have that kind of maybe show some application here. But no, the Primal Fury going to get burned down. This has a similar feel to the end of last game. where eventually Baskin and the boys were just kind of, I want to say, too far ahead. I mean, 11,000 gold, the items definitely in their favor, as well as maybe ward coverage. But with this Fire Giant, it feels like Locked and Goated just don't think they can win the fight.
I didn't believe it after you said it. You said 11,000 gold. I looked at the top of the screen. You're absolutely right. And their siege is strong. If Uzi's able to disrupt the backline and anyone steps forward, I don't care if it's the tank. I don't care if it's Ionic stepping up. He's going to get absolutely shredded by this Cupid and this Hebo and this Soul. I mean, there's so much damage on this team.
Well, they're trying to figure out how they want to crack this shell. Good little bit of a stun there from Baskin. They do burn Relentless One's ult, which might be the most important one to get rid of early on. Now they're going to go in. Frenzy has been popped. Gino looking to try and find some pressure, look for the stuns, and set up the kills. Leon going to get zoned away. They still don't have the pressure they need to get rid of the Phoenix. Not quite ready to jump in. Our Meerkat and Baskin. They're going to look for another burn. There's going to be Fields of Love looking to find Relentless One. Meerkat with the ult over the wall going to be able to secure that one. Meanwhile, Uzi has completely soloed out Leon, and that's going to make it a lot easier for them to push into this Phoenix. Ionic jumps forward. Ionic goes down for it, and now you have the Dragon form, the Coerce, coming through on top of all of that. This Phoenix might as well be gone. There's only 2 members left on the side of Locked and Goated. This is looking like it might be game Stort taken up into the sky. Has to Aegis when he comes down, and the jump away to try and stay alive, but the minions are in, the Titan is low, and it looks like Baskin and the boys should be able to walk around with this one and win this set 2-0, but Stort looking for a turnaround, at least 1 kill. That's not going to be enough.
I mean, that's tough, man. The split push was clean there. They sent Uzi to mid, sent Leon to deal with it. Leon lost his life. Everyone else lost their life over there. Many an oof happened on that defense. But, I mean, they put up a good fight. When you're playing against Baskin and the boys, as long as you look good at the end of the day, I mean, that's just it. You're looking good. Locked and Goated were certainly the underdog coming into the set, and they still dragged these games out to 30, 40-ish minutes both times. These guys are certainly competitors.
I mean, it just comes down to, I mean, a pivot point. And honestly, it feels like maybe that first Gold Fury was the one that opened the door for Baskin and the boys. It felt like, I guess the best way you worded it, where they were passively winning, right? They weren't ever looking actively to find what they did. It just kind of rolled always in their favor. Sometimes it felt almost ludicrously in their favor. They finished that Fire Giant, and they have minions pushed up and left. Oh, also a minion wave in mid. Yeah, don't mind us. We'll just go ahead and take these tier 2s. It just felt like Locked and Goated maybe missed their window of opportunity early on.
Yeah, I really think that Locked and Goated's strength as a team with these individual players is that early game phase. They're able to fight in incredibly well. We already saw that Leon on this Nemesis was able to move in, find early ganks, get some success in dual lane. I think if this team decides to lean into that identity just a little bit more, pick towards that early game, draft around pressure, that's really where we're going to start to pop off. I think that at their core, Locked and Goated want to play like a team like Ghost, something along those lines. They need to pick gods that facilitate that play style.
Well, you're not going to get to see Locked and Goated again this week, but you will get a chance to watch Baskin and the boys a little bit later tonight after the SPL. Alongside them, you'll have Your Best Buds, Hype Unit, and Gone to Tahiti jumping in there. And Gone to Tahiti may be one to keep your eyes on. They're 1-0. It's only week number 2 here that we're going to be looking at. But, I mean, coming in kind of as a fresh team, I think, is opening up a conversation to be had, especially as of right now, sitting up there right below Baskin and the boys. Again, week 2, they haven't played their games yet, but that's not a bad spot to be sitting in.
It really isn't, man. Anything you can get in the early is going to be huge. As far as seeding goes, mentality is so important for competitors at this level because when you feel good, you're going to play good. I'm super excited to see as these teams grow. I mean, we don't have to talk about Baskin and the boys growing. They might be at their roof, and their roof is insanely high, but they might even continue to grow as well. But the competition at this SCC level every single year is getting higher and higher, and it's an absolute treat to watch.
Well, I'm excited to see what Baskin and the boys and the rest of the Challenger Circuit teams have to offer in the future. But right now, Mifflin, I personally am more excited for what's going to be coming up next. It's not just the SMITE Pro League, but it's Ghost Gaming going up against Space Station Gaming, probably one of the most contested matches, at least that we've gotten so far this phase. I'm excited to watch it. You should be as well, so go get your snacks. I recommend popcorn and a drink at this point. We're going to take a quick break, but then we'll be back with the SMITE Pro League.